starting to be live. The transitions are there. I'm gonna double check. Okay. Mute. Oh, yeah. Mute site. Mute site. Okay. Alrighty then. The posts. Whoa, hi everyone. I guess we're live today. So thank you. This is Digital Fam. Thank you for coming on if you're watching us on YouTube, or especially on Twitch and Facebook Live. Oh my gosh, I hope all these connections are connected. So I gotta tell you, if you guys are in tech, let me tell you how I'm doing this. I am actually streaming or using Streamlabs OBS, but I had to upgrade to a Prime account so that I can multi-stream. So I'm really at the back end of Streamlabs OBS Prime, and then it's supposed to stream to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And I spent a good amount of time trying to figure that out and getting the audio. So if anybody can hear me, I'd really appreciate if you are on Facebook, say you can hear me, and if you are on Facebook Live and on YouTube, give a little hands up, and just so I know that everything is going well. So this is my first live stream. Ow! And you know what? I'm so excited because I have a guest coming on. His name is Buenaventure, and I know some of you know him already, especially if you're in the crypto Bitcoin or crypto art space, as well as for those of you that I've been fortunate to have worked with before. That is how I met Lewis way back in 2009, but we don't need to talk about that. So the reason why I'm bringing on Lewis is because we're going to be talking about NFT art and the whole crypto space and all that. So please, I'm not gonna let you guys wait any further. I'm gonna bring them on, and my goodness, I better hope I remember to do these transitions. And here's Lewis. Hey, Lewis.
Hey, Carmen, how are you doing? How are you doing
Oh,
this wonderful day?
oh my God, this wonderful day is a wonderful evening. I'm good.
Ah, of course. Yes.
Well, it's morning. Good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning. It's just after 9 a.m. here. It's very sunny. It's actually very, very sunny. It's quite warm today. But
Yes.
so it is the Philippines, so that's kind of how it goes here.
It is. And first of all, for people who don't know, yes, Philippines is tropical, but where exactly are you in the Philippines? And make them more
Yeah.
jealous.
Sure. So, so I don't live in the capital city, which is kind of called Metro Manila. I live 4 hours north in this beach town in the province of La Union. So, like the ocean is about 3 minutes walk that way from where I am right now. We're kind of up on a hill, so we kind of have a nice elevated view of kind of the landscape and the beach and such. And it's a very nice, quiet place. My girlfriend and I moved over here to kind of escape the lockdown in Metro Manila, which got pretty intense in 2020. So we've been living here for about 6, 7 months now. And honestly, it's kind of possibly one of the best decisions we've ever made. It was just like such a quality of life improvement. And it's cheaper. It's much, much cheaper to live out here too. So, lots of good things on all sides.
Wow. First of all, you had me at beach, and you had me at 3 minutes from the beach. Could you actually
Yeah.
see the beach from where you are?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, my entire view is water and hillside and stuff like that. So it's really nice and pretty in the morning. Honestly, at basically any time of day, it's fine. It's a nice view, except for when the sun is like blistering hot in your face. But other than that, I really can't complain.
Oh wow, that's wow. Man, that's one of my goals is to live on a beach by a White House. Like, let's see, who knows? If I play my cards right, I may be a neighbor.
Ah,
Who
there you go.
knows?
There you
Who
go.
knows? Okay, so Lewis, first of all, everybody who's watching, uh, let's talk about NFTs. non-fungible tokens and how it particularly relates to art. So break it down to what exactly an NFT is and how did that get transitioned to the art space?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, the NFT concept is not a new one. It's been around for about 4 years now. But it never really became popular until just about a year ago, in the early part of 2020. The important part of the NFT term is just the word token at the very end. So the T stands for token. What that means is that it's basically a representation of something. So in this case, the token is a representation of ownership. You can think about it in your mind like it is a digital certificate of ownership in something. And over the years, we've had a lot of different blockchain projects that have been kind of using the concept of these tokens in various ways. So we've had people who are trying to do it for supply chain, like inventory and shipping and all of that stuff. Then we've had some people try to do like real estate with it, so that you've got like your real estate deed of sale on the blockchain using this kind of token. But very recently, what's happened, not that recently, but kind of in the last couple of years, what's happened is that the art world kind of really hooked onto this and realized that there was a very simple problem that NFTs could be good at solving, which is the problem of showing ownership in digital art. And the reason why that's always been a difficulty is because digital art, by its very definition, is super easy to reproduce, right? So once you have drawn that thing on Photoshop or on whatever drawing program you use, once you save that JPEG, anyone can literally look at it and Control C, Control V. Now they've got their own copy of your art, right?
I'm guilty of that. Yes.
Which I mean, but it's fine. I mean, that's how the internet was supposed to work. We're supposed to be able to freely share the content that we're viewing on the internet, and that's completely okay. The problem is that there was no way for someone who was truly a fan of this artist, truly a supporter of this artist, there was no way for them to kind of show the world that they actually did own this particular edition of this particular piece of art. And that's what was always missing from the digital art world. If you were a traditional painter and you painted oil on canvas, watercolors, whatever, very easy for a patron of yours to buy your work and prove that they now owned it, because they could literally take the painting and frame it in their home. There's no version of that in the digital art world until now. And that's why the NFT art kind of industry has grown so exponentially in the last couple of years, because it was actually solving a genuine problem, which is that digital artists have never been treated at the same level as traditional artists. Although they have exactly the same kind of skill set, they have exactly the same kind of reach and following and all of that stuff. But just for whatever reason, because of the fact that it was too easy to reproduce their work and just kind of get your own copy of it, they were just never treated as seriously. So that's changing now. And that's why it's such an important kind of mindset shift or paradigm shift in this space.
That's true. Now let's talk about digital art for a second, because you're right. Digital art was never taken seriously at all. And wouldn't it be Banksy that actually took digital art and gave it the platform that it needed?
Yeah, well, so there's a bunch of different artists that have been trying to kind of bring digital art kind of to the mainstream consciousness in a way that is as respected as traditional art. I think that that's still an ongoing conversation, and I think that NFT art is a great step in the right direction. I don't know that we're quite there yet. I mean, that being said, the third most profitable living artist is an NFT artist right now, so that's saying something, right? It certainly implies some mainstream acceptance there. We'll see if it continues to be the case like many years from now, but obviously I'm banking on that being the case.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, now first of all, the reason why I got you on here was because of a certain tweet. So, look, I just saw something and it's not there. So let's go back to this because that's just how it is. Technology is how it is, guys. I actually prepared tabs, but never mind that. So I saw a tweet a few days ago, late at night, and it was from the Bitpinas at BITPINAS, and it said Filipinos at Hello Lewis, Autotelic Music, Pokemon NFTs, Marvin Germo, and
Hmm.
Ali Young are set to participate in at Binance NFT Marketplace launch today. And I was like, what?
Hmm.
So I had to know what that was about. And I couldn't
Yep.
believe that you were one of the 100 artists to help
Right.
to debut the
Yeah.
Binance NFT Marketplace. How did that even happen?
Yeah. So for people who don't know, the Binance NFT Marketplace is the first of, well, it's the first really big marketplace that in the Binance ecosystem. This one is actually branded by Binance itself, right? And the point of this was to create a marketplace that was a little bit more globally diverse. I think that what was very interesting with the NFT art movement until this point was it was actually quite Western centric in the sense that, kind of a lot of the buyers were based in North America, a lot of the artists were based in North America, and very importantly, every single art marketplace out there was only offered in English. Which kind of is a bit of a barrier for quite a lot of the world. I mean, North Asia specifically. So Binance comes along and kind of builds its own NFT marketplace. They're just calling it Binance NFT. And very importantly, it's offered in a couple of languages, Chinese being kind of the one that was always, a very glaring omission. So now you've got artists that are distinctly Asian. You've got Chinese, Korean, Japanese artists, Filipino artists like us. They have this whole campaign called 100 Creators, where they bring together, a whole bunch of different artists from these regions, and kind of it's one big mosh pit over there right now, where you have all of these very different styles, very different types of art. Some of them are not even technically art. Some of them are, kind of video footage. Some of them is like musical singles, things like that. So, like, it's very, very diverse. I'm very proud that to be one of those Filipinos on there. How did it happen? Binance has a very strong presence here in the Philippines. They have a very strong presence in Southeast Asia, and they're kind of. I guess I'm visible enough in the local crypto community that I was able to kind of find my way into, you know, their list of creators. So yeah, I was very very fortunate to be one of those 100. And it's so far been a pretty interesting ride, kind of watching this very, very young marketplace. It's barely a week old as we're talking about it now, but it's been a very interesting ride, kind of watching them, in the initial stages of their launch.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, we have somebody in the chat. Hexagonaut says congrats to Luis Buenaventura with an upside down smiley emoticon. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you for that little message. So here's the thing. So then I was going through the Twitter Rappler's Twitter account, and they said that you recently did a collab with Jose Delbo, like one of the former DC Marvel Comics illustrators. Isn't he
Right.
like old? Isn't he like super old?
His 87. So yes, he is quite old.
But
It's
how?
actually quite fun.
Yeah, how did that
Yeah.
happen? How did that collab
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah, so Jose Delbo is kind of one of the first generation NFT artists, sort of, kind of like me, I guess. Like, kind of started in 2017. I think Delbo might have started in late 2018 or early 2019. Back then, it was a very small crowd. Most people kind of knew each other, and then it was pretty easy to kind of differentiate the various art styles because there were so few players in the market. I was very much I guess I usually refer to myself kind of jokingly as a crypto propagandist because a lot of my artwork is about promoting Bitcoin and kind of crypto and all of that stuff, right? So anyway, so Jose Delbo and his grandson Nick were kind of already establishing his reputation as an NFT artist at that point, and they were aware of my work because of kind of a lot of the crypto related art that I was producing. They had a concept in their mind about making a superhero character that was based on Satoshi, and so they reached out and asked if I wanted to do a collab with Jose Delbo, where he would provide the black and white illustration, just the line art, and then I basically run with it, right? And that's kind of how we ended up kind of in the collaboration that we launched on Nifty Gateway. This was back in March, and it was very well received. So, and obviously, like, a big part of that is because Jose Delbo is such an interesting story. I mean, the dude is 87 years old, and has been making comics for about 5.5 decades,
Wow.
which is longer than I've been alive by far. And it was such an honor and a very unique kind of experience to be kind of working with someone who had that much kind of history behind him.
Right. Now, for those people who don't know who Satoshi is, who is Satoshi?
Well, Satoshi is the anonymous creator of Bitcoin. So very mythologized in the crypto culture. So you'll see all sorts of artwork about Satoshi Nakamoto. I've drawn him in various forms multiple times over the last several years. No one knows who he is, so no one actually knows what he looks like. But generally speaking, he's drawn using that Guy Fawkes mask that we usually associate with kind of kind of revolution and anonymity and things like that. So that's kind of usually how he's rendered, and that's why our version of Satoshi, the superhero, kind of uses that same kind of look, but obviously kind of very, very modernized. I mean, his basically Iron Man with a Guy Fawkes mask. So.
Oh my God, that's crazy. And it's like what, 443,000 in NFT sales? Is that in US dollars?
It is. It is. So what happened there actually was that we had 222 people buy the artwork, and the price on the artwork was $2,000 a piece. So that's how we ended up at over $430,000 in sales. I think that we knew that it was going to be successful because of the subject matter, and the NFT art scene was extra hot, piping hot in March. So kind of the way that people were throwing money at it was just to the degree where I was surprised by kind of how well it did. I was expecting maybe 100 sales, so we did double of that, and I was like, okay, wow, that was way higher than anything I could have thought. So yeah, it went quite well. It's gonna be hard to beat that record, just because it was such a high number of sales. But certainly I plan to continue working in this space and can beat that. It might take a while. That's all.
Wow, you set the bar high for yourself and others, perhaps. For sure, for sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Now it's funny because when I saw that tweet from Bitpenis, and then they talked about you, I immediately had to like do something about it. So I went on my Instagram and then I created basically what I saw, the 100 creators, Luis Buenaventura, Filipino NFT artists, and I created a grid on that. And then that's when I reached out to you. So yeah, I had to plug that in. So here's the thing. I have your artwork right now on Twitter. You can't, you probably don't see it, or do you? Now,
I do. Yeah.
so what is this? Like you put our crypto goddess T4 and 6 is now live. What is T4 and 6?
Right. So that is actually a weird spelling for the word. So that's pronounced Tang. And it's kind of like it's spelled kind of in a kind of hacker style, right? So the reason why it's called Tang is because this goddess, which is a kind of a mishmash of various religious and cultural references, she is playing a Filipino instrument called the kulintang. Those are kind of these little brass gongs that you can you hit. It's a percussion instrument from the southern part of the country. So kulintang. That's how we got the word Tang, and that's why the title of the piece is T4N6 because it's a weird spelling of Tang because she's a cyborg. So you kind of have kind of a weird spelling for everything. It was kind of the goal with it was always to kind of do something really traditional and at the same time kind of modern. So you've got kind of this big mashup of kind of possibly Hindu influence. The instrument itself is from the southern part of the country, which is largely Muslim, and then the music uses some notes of the kolintang, but it is very modern and kind of it's written by my friend Ian Magbanwa, so he's a DJ musician. So it's thoroughly modern, and obviously the goddess herself is a cyborg, so it's like kind of all over, right? Like the things that the things that we're into, right? That's basically what it is. So you kind of blended all of these various influences into this one piece, and that's why it looks so wild. If you watch it, kind of there's particle systems in the background. That's what you call those kind of the lighting effects.
Yes.
And so that was a first for me. I'd never created animations like that until this piece. And now that I have it in my repertoire, I might actually use it a little bit more because it was fun and it makes it look pretty cool.
Wow.
So I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out.
It's very beautiful. I'm staring at it now. And for those of you, you can see it on the screen, but you need to follow Hello Lewis on Twitter at Hello Lewis and scroll through his feed. And you really need to listen to it because it's also animated with music. And I'm not going to attempt to do that. So there's elements here. On her, what is this? Her left hand, is she holding a conch shell?
So actually, you need to zoom in, but that is actually a mechanical heart. So when you zoom in, if as the music plays, the heart actually synchronizes with the bass note in the music. So it's beating kind of in the same time as the bass note of the music that Ian wrote. There's a lot of symbolism as well. So what I had in my head here was I wanted her to kind of have these four tools that were kind of, in my mind, the components of a good crypto person, which is you have the heart, which symbolizes passion. You have the scales, which obviously symbolizes justice, equality, stuff like that. You have the book, which is, again, if you zoom in, it's quite hard to see it, but that's actually 2 pages from the Bitcoin white paper. So that symbolizes kind of knowledge, maybe research, stuff like that. And then lastly, the potion symbolizes experimentation, innovation, things like that. So those are kind of these 4 components. I think they're very important in if you want to be in crypto, if you want to be a crypto business. These things all matter. The passion is the one that is highest up.
Yes.
It's like the one that's just holding up. And I think that's the thing that triggers it, but you need all 4. So that was kind of the symbolism behind those choices. And hopefully some people got it, but I mean, I think that the nice thing about art is regardless of how someone interprets a piece, if they can actually imbue it with their own interpretation, their own translation of kind of what all those components mean, and it is as correct as what I've just said. Like your subjective view of this artwork is as correct as mine, because art is based on kind of the viewer's experience also.
It's beautiful, Lewis. Beautiful. It's really beautiful. Okay, so here's something. I saw an article from the Singapore Tatler, and it said, is cryptocurrency doomed to be unsustainable? Maybe not. Now, you're quoted here. I'm going to go all the way down, and you're actually quoted. I'm not going to find the quote. I'm going to say the quote. The quote is, the narrative is against POW, which is, proof of work.
Proof of work, yep.
Yeah, so the narrative is against POW at the moment, so you say. Can you kindly explain the proof of work versus POS, proof of stake?
Sure. So blockchains generally can be divided into two distinct types right now. There's some others, but like the two basic types are proof of work and proof of stake. Proof of work is kind of the underlying mechanism through which that blockchain finds consensus. Basically, it's the engine that makes this stuff work, right? So I guess that's the overly simplified way to say it. An example of a proof of work blockchain are big guys like Bitcoin, right? And Ethereum itself actually also uses proof of work. Now, one of the biggest problems with proof of work is that it is actually very electricity intensive. And this is what I was talking about when I was saying that the narrative is against proof of work right now. We started the year very, very bullish. The price of Bitcoin was at an all-time high. And then kind of as we got to April, which is kind of when we hit the $64,000 all-time high for Bitcoin, the narrative started to shift on us. And what was happening, was that there were a lot of detractors and kind of cynics who were saying that proof of work is actually harmful to the environment because of how much electricity Bitcoin currently consumes in order to protect its network. Now, the amount of electricity that we're talking about is actually quite large. I mean, we're talking, kind of country-sized amounts of electricity. So it is not a small amount of electricity. Now, all of the criticisms about this is, I mean, I guess we could argue about whether or not it is true that kind of it is a waste of electricity. That part is very arguable. I mean, there are arguments on both sides about whether or not that electricity could have been used for something else. But bottom line is that it does use a lot of electricity. And then I guess further, there is a very strong narrative right now that if you support Bitcoin, you are anti-environment, which is kind of what was happening with Tesla, which is why Elon Musk had to take back his original plan of accepting Bitcoin as payment for his cars, because Tesla did not want to be viewed as an anti-Earth company when their entire mission is to be pro-Earth, right? I mean, that's why they were doing the whole electric vehicles thing. Not to mention that they are heavily subsidized by the government because of their environmental kind of benefits. So it just didn't work for them. And it's going to be similar for a lot of other big corporations. It is very uncool right now to support technology that the market believes to be environmentally wasteful or to have a net negative effect on the planet. So this is what I mean by kind of the narrative is against proof of work. Now, your other question was how it relates to proof of stake. Proof of stake is kind of the competing engine. I guess I'm not going to go into the details of exactly how they're different, but the primary difference that is relevant to this conversation is that proof of stake uses barely 10% of the electricity that proof of work does. So it's a very, very big difference in terms of energy savings. Now, there are arguments about whether or not proof of stake is actually going to be secure enough to eventually replace proof of work. And I think that the answer to that question is unknown until a very large blockchain incorporates proof of stake and then actually runs it for a long period of time. And then we will actually see whether or not proof of stake is better than proof of work. And as it happens, there is a blockchain that will be doing exactly that, which is Ethereum in early 2022. So we're not that far away from finding out whether or not it actually is going to be the answer to the sustainability question. But in the interim, I have a feeling that Bitcoin is going to have a really hard time combating kind of the all the bad news or the bad PR that has been kind of circulating about kind of the the environmental impact of the Bitcoin network. And unless they can figure out a way to kind of get around that narrative, or maybe figure out a way to completely refute that narrative, it's gonna be an uphill climb. Just because perception is everything, right? Perception in the cryptocurrency market is everything. Um, it's everything in most markets, but the cryptocurrency market is particularly susceptible to this stuff because um, unlike more traditional markets, there's no regulator, there's no central authority managing it, there's nothing, right? It's very, very pure in the sense that what the market believes is literally reflected in the price in real time.
Wow.
And because of that, it's very easy to read what the market believes. And the
Yes.
market currently believes that Bitcoin is kind of not a great investment right now. Right now. So we'll see how that perception changes over the next year as, kind of we sort these things out.
Yeah, it's interesting because like whatever you see on Twitter, the majority, then it reflects of the market's going. And I love that you do is it a weekly or daily? You do a weekly or daily take on the market. Is that what you do
Yeah,
on?
so I do a daily Mondays through Fridays newsletter. I call that Crypto Day. It's on cryptoday.substack.com. It's primarily meant for Filipinos. So I favor news that I believe is relevant to kind of the Filipino crypto investor or crypto enthusiast. And kind of I don't spend a lot of time talking about news that is very specific to, say, the US or kind of other countries. I try to look for the stuff that is more generally relevant, and then kind of if there's something that's very specifically relevant to the Philippines, I kind of favor that type of news. And then I guess there's a lot of commentary also, so it's not. I would say that it's not unbiased. I mean, I never tried to be a journalist about this stuff. It is a commentary on kind of how I believe the markets are shaping up. So, if there are people out there who value my opinion on these matters, I mean, I've been around for a while. I'm not saying that I'm an expert though, but I have been in the industry for 7 years now. So I have seen a thing or two. And I think that what I can contribute to people's understanding of this stuff is a succinct retelling of recent news, which is kind of why it's daily, but but I can relate it a little better to the things that have come before, right? Because I've seen like things like the China ban, like when China banned crypto I guess it's now 2 months ago. You know, I indicated pretty clearly that this was the third time that they'd done that in the last so in the last 5 years, right? So this is not a new thing for China. But a lot of people don't know that because a lot of people got into the cryptocurrency industry literally this year, right? Because
Wow.
Bitcoin was hitting an all-time high again. So they don't have a lot of the background knowledge that we got to see firsthand
Right.
when we were kind of watching this stuff happening back in 2014, 2015, and so on.
Wow. That's great. Thanks for that. Oh, look, we got a question here from Sean Mitchell. Hi, Sean. If you remember Sean, remember? That's not say. Okay. He asked the question, if you guys take questions, what are some good places to upload NFTs? Or how do I get started with taking art I have done before and making it an NFT? That's a great question.
Right. Sure. So a couple of different places. If you're just getting started and you just want to get your feet wet and you don't care so much about kind of, well, okay, so let's just start with just to get you started. So I would say OpenSea, OpenSea.io is probably your first stop. So that is an open marketplace. Anyone can sign up, anyone can upload their artwork, anyone can start selling there. You could get up and running in literally minutes, assuming that you had a little bit of Ethereum, right? Because you need a little bit of Ethereum in order to create the actual token of the art that you're about to sell. So OpenSea is your first stop. There's another one called Rarible that's roughly the same. Also, very open marketplace and allows you to get started in minutes. The ones that are more, I would say, so I tend to favor curated marketplaces though. So these marketplaces are ones where there's actually an approval process before an artist can list there. And the reason for that is because the content there tends to be cleaner in the sense that with an open marketplace, it's kind of hard to sometimes tell if this artwork that is being sold here is actually from the artist or whether it was stolen or not. Because that same openness that these marketplaces have also means that it's a little bit harder to police fraudulent pieces. Because like, you know, when literally anyone can post something there, literally everyone will. Whereas in kind of these curated marketplaces where there's actually, you know, admins that are, you know, kind of monitoring what is being sold, there's a little bit more, you're a little bit more secure in the fact that the art that you're buying is actually from the artist that is saying that it's theirs, right? So examples of that are Nifty Gateway, which is where we did the Delbo collaboration, Maker's Place, which is the one where I've sold most of my art. Yeah, stuff like that. So those marketplaces curate their artists. They also help their artists by promoting their work when they've got something new. So that helps a lot, right? I mean, promotion is basically the name of the game here because anyone can get their artwork minted, but it's very, very hard to get noticed because, you know, that's what happens when you democratize content. Like, you now have, you know, possibly hundreds of thousands of artists in the NFT space. How do you differentiate yourself from that? It's very, you know, kind of, it's quite challenging to get noticed when there's that much art already out there.
Thanks for that. Now, did we answer the question about how does one take art they've already done and create it into an NFT?
Well, depending on what the art is, if it was digital in the first place, then all you're doing is uploading a file on using the OpenSea or Rarible platform. It's literally as easy as uploading a file, putting a name on it, putting a price on it, determining how many copies you want to sell. I mean, in most cases, you'd probably want to start with just one and see what happens. But yeah, it's quite simple. I mean, it's deceptively simple. Once you've kind of gotten your head around kind of the jargon, like, you know, what does minting mean, you know, and how do I pay for minting and all of that stuff, it's actually fairly straightforward. If you are more of a traditional artist, like say, you know, kind of you had a painting on canvas or something like that, then you would probably need to first take a very, very good digital photo of it, a high resolution digital photo of your artwork, and you can sell it as an NFT that way. And a lot of painters do this because it's easier for them to reach a global audience using NFTs than it is for them to reach a global audience any other way. They can offer to also mail the physical piece to whoever buys the token. That's a, you know, that's a possibility. But in most cases, it's enough that you just took a photo of it and that's what you sell. You know, you don't even have to think about the logistics part of actually mailing the
Right.
physical piece to someone.
Right. Oh, okay. We got more questions. This is really good. This is a hot topic. So Hexadize on YouTube. Hey, Hexadize. He asks, particularly for music artists, what is the best route with no visual for an NFT if you don't have a visual, like spatial?
So, yeah. I don't know that there's ever been. So, okay, so that's not true. There actually are a few artists that are, so musicians, sorry, that have released NFTs purely as music, right? There was no actual visual component to them. The one that comes to mind is Kings of Leon. So the band Kings of Leon, they released an album as an NFT earlier this year. I believe they made like a little over $1 million from it. There's a bunch of other bands that have done the same. Eminem has a couple of pieces that use tracks of his music. Apple the App from the Black Eyed Peas has some also. So there's a bunch of musicians that are already in this space. I think that their approach is very different, each and every one of them. A lot of them hire visual artists or collaborate with visual artists so that there's always something visual and it's not just music. Typically, stuff like that does a little better because, you know, people want to be able to see something when they buy it. That's not, you know, that's not a mandatory thing, but it usually helps. So if you were a musician, I feel like you'd probably do best by collaborating with a visual artist who could kind of put something on top of your work that makes it more compelling. But that being said, there definitely have been music only NFTs out there that have done well.
Right. Thank you for that. I hope that answered your question, Hexadize. Now, speaking of musicians who partnered with visual artists, there is a band or a group. It's a brother from Italy, and they're called Mateme, Matthew, and oh, I forgot his other name. So they created it's a 12 piece art collection called the Angel Alphabet Collection,
Cool.
and I'm currently showing it to you. So what they've done is they've taken their music and they've, I believe, utilized an AI platform and as well as visual art so that their music along with the art or the art moves with the or
Right.
synchronizes with their music. So that's,
Right.
have you ever
Right.
seen that? So that's something.
Yeah, so I haven't, but it looks similar to kind of the tech that I was using for the Tang piece, actually. Yeah, because you can use, so you can create these what we call audio visualizations with a little bit of programming and a lot of computing power. You can create these visuals that synchronize with the music that you have. I use kind of a simpler version of it for the Tang piece. This looks a little bit more complicated though, the thing that you're showing. But I mean, I believe the underlying technique is kind of similar.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could guess that. So,
Yeah.
you know what? You actually have a proposal. Hexadai says he wants. Do you want to collaborate? He, so I believe I know this guy, and he has a wonderful voice. He is in
Okay.
Texas, and he's a guitar player. I guess he plays bass too, but I've heard some of his tracks. So
Right.
you never
Awesome.
know. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, like, so a lot of the work that I'm putting together over the next couple of months is they're all collaborations. I think that generally speaking, you will do well. You will do well in this space by collaborating more than kind of doing stuff solo. And that's generally true for a lot of things in life. But with NFTs, there's always a little bit more excitement when two kind of well-known names work together. I guess you could say that for fashion too.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, a lot of things. So you kind of double up on the reach of both of the contributing artists, and I think that that's a not a bad idea. I think that we'll see what the final form of all of these NFT collaborations will eventually take. But for the meantime, my personal strategy is just to kind of work with artists that are as stylistically different from me as I possibly can,
Oh, wow.
because that kind of forces a very different kind of look to the work, right? And so stay tuned.
Yes.
It looks like at least for the next 3 months or so, like I'll be launching like a bunch of different things that are all collaborations.
Oh, wow, we're excited to see that. Now, let's talk about, let me see, let us talk about Bloom X. Okay,
Hmm.
so BloomX is the platform that your cryptocurrency company
Hmm.
recently launched in March of this year, and
Yep.
Rappler
Yep.
actually covered it. It says BloomX
Yep.
to allow trading of over 250 cryptocurrencies for the Philippine
Hmm.
pesos. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So BloomX is kind of the culmination of a lot of our learnings over the last couple of years. So we're a small crypto startup based in the Philippines. Our primary market are Filipinos. The mission of the company has always been that we want to make this stuff safe and secure and easy to access for the average Filipino. And it's taken a long time to get to that point. So BloomX.app is what that is. Um, it was built in partnership with Binance. So we're actually using the Binance order book underneath in order to kind of make the prices as competitive as we possibly can. And so that's kind of the secret sauce underneath BloomX. But because we are licensed and regulated in the Philippines, we can actually transact legally in a compliant way with Filipinos. They can load up their BloomX wallets with peso directly from their bank accounts, and that stuff is game changing, right? The smallest trades we can handle are like $10, so you can. It's very accessible for the average Filipino, even for very young crypto curious investors, first timers, things like that. We've tried to make it as simple as possible. And it's been doing pretty well. We're still in early access. We only kind of we started talking about it in mid-March, so it's only been several months, just a few months really. So we're still kind of just inviting people on slowly, but like the volumes that we've seen thus far have been, very, very promising. I would say actually it's probably our most successful product ever. So we're just making sure now that the whole thing is as stable as possible so that when we do open it up for public registration, we'll be ready for kind of the deluge of trading volume. So it's been very positive so far, and I'm super optimistic on kind of the impact that it'll have on the local trading scene.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. And on your website, on the website of bloomx.app, you have like 10,523 people on the wait list.
Right. Yeah. So that's actually one of the nice things about it. We already know that when we're ready to kind of open it up to the general public, there's at least 10,000 people who will probably take those slots, right? So that's a good bit of information to have. We're taking our time. We're making sure that everything is nice and stable before we do that. But in the meantime, even just the few people that are already on it are already kind of doing some pretty crazy volume. Like, again, unexpectedly large amounts of trading going on, even though we're kind of talking about a smaller group of just invited users. So yeah, it's very, very promising, and we're super excited about like what this will look like in the next few months once we've actually opened it up completely.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, a second last question that I have anyway. So you guys, if you have any questions and you have already put them in the chat, please continue putting them in the chat and we'll try to get to them shortly. Here's the second last question from me anyway. So why should why should anyone invest in NFTs, and particularly right now?
Okay, so well, that question is not different from the question of why should anyone invest in art. Um, so I'll answer it kind of broadly that way first. Why does anyone invest in art? Well, a couple of reasons. One is emotional, and the other one is financial, right? So the emotional part is this art just speaks to you. The artist is doing something that you like, that you are that you enjoy, and because of that you want to give them money and you want them to continue doing their thing, right? So that's kind of the emotional side of it. The financial side of it is that art tends to be an uncorrelated asset, and works like a pretty decent long-term investment, in the sense that it doesn't matter so much whether or not the economy is doing badly or whether or not the other industries are doing badly. Art tends to kind of just slowly appreciate over time. And that's been true for hundreds of years, thousands of years. That's why we had Renaissance painters who had, patrons who are basically just paying for everything, for their lifestyles, so that they would have access to the paintings that these Renaissance artists were producing. So we've been doing that for as long as society has had money. There have been artists and there have been art patrons. So that's roughly the same mechanism going on with NFT art. People are looking for uncorrelated investments, that that they can convert their crypto into and out of. So the people who buy my art, like today or maybe a year ago, their goal is to hold on to this stuff long enough that they'll see kind of price appreciation that is unhindered by, say, the US dollar, or kind of the general global economy, or any of those things. So it's the same mechanism. It's just that with crypto, as always, everything happens at a pace that is kind of ridiculously fast, right? So we were seeing 5-10x gains on artwork that people had bought like literally 6 months ago. But that's crypto for you. And I think that over time, this stuff will normalize where, you know, kind of price appreciation of that magnitude will kind of taper off and it'll be a little bit closer to what we normally expect from traditional art, which is that it'll take at least a few years before you'll be able to resell these things. Now, granted, I mean, if you are lucky enough to spot a young artist, an up and comer, and then you just happen to catch some of their work early on in their career, and then literally a year or two from now, they're auctioning stuff off at Christie's, then you're in luck, right? So you're probably going to see some pretty massive price appreciation on that. That's a little bit trickier to find. You have to really understand the art world to kind of figure out who these up and comers even are. But that's kind of the fun of it too, right? If you're an art collector, if you're a gallerist, if you are an art broker, an art dealer, these are skills that are in your wheelhouse. And we're seeing a lot of those professions make the shift into NFT art as well.
Wow, that's great. Okay, my last question. Now, you know that I have gotten into a project called OVR.ai, and that is what this YouTube channel, this Twitch is all about. So OVR.ai is a spatial web platform, and it's this company out of Italy. They just launched, I guess, a little over 6 months ago. And what they've done is they've created the polygon shape of a hexagon, and they used a hexagon because it is the only polygon that you can align all together, and it'll actually cover the sphere, like the whole world.
Yep.
So they've taken this spatial layer of hexagons and layered it over the world, and you can actually bid on each hexagon that is 300 square meters. And you can own, I guess, a spatial web augmented reality platform that has its representation in the real world. So did you have time to look at that at OVR.ai?
Yeah, so I was just looking at it very recently, and I think that, so a couple of things first, right? There's a lot of investments currently being made in kind of the idea of VR worlds, right? So, kind of there's a lot of projects out there that some of them are blockchain based, some of them are, kind of their own thing. But yeah, there's a lot of investments being made in kind of the idea that we can virtualize land ownership in this new space. So I think the general term for it is the metaverse. Now, so the OVR version of this is actually quite interesting because they're mapping the real world. So they're actually creating an AR layer on top of planet Earth, which is interesting too. That's got its own kind of interesting implications. The implications for events, for actually just the idea that like if you go to like a tourist spot and kind of have an AR layer on top of it that you can either add sponsorship to or create virtual events around, kind of things like that. I mean, I can imagine there's a lot of applications that I've not even thought of before, that might be very unique to what OVR is doing. So I like the idea. It's certainly an interesting way to use the real world as your landscape to add content on top of. So that's pretty cool. I wish I knew a little bit more about 3D. I'm not a 3D artist, so I don't know like how easily I'd be able to kind of do stuff for this. But the idea of being able to create an AR experience that is location based, as an artist, that sounds very appealing. I'd have to really think about exactly what that means, right? But like, it sounds pretty cool. If you had the right tool set, you could do some pretty wild things there.
Definitely. So, we have Hexagonaut is actually encouraging you. He says, Lewis, you should definitely display your NFTs on some OVR hexagons. And
Cool.
there are a lot of people, I'm sure he's willing to, and Hexadize and I too, am willing to, what's it called, open up one of our hexagons for any of your work.
Nice. That's great. I mean, I like the idea of being able to create like museums or galleries in kind of in the virtual world, right? Because um, it's hard for people to visit museums these days, for various reasons. And I think that if we can share art in a familiar form, i.e., you walk around a space and you see art there, that's kind of cool. But kind of in a way that doesn't actually allow you to, doesn't require you to maybe leave your home so much. I don't know. So I feel like there's a lot of different ways that you could use your technology. Yeah, creating virtual buildings on top of real buildings sounds pretty wild.
It's pretty.
I can imagine some pretty cool cyberpunk ideas, like just with that.
Oh shoot! Right. There's another question also from Hexagonaut. He goes, "What do you think about using augmented reality to promote your NFTs?" Which would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much experience with AR. I've definitely seen other NFT artists do that. Trevor Jones does that quite a bit with some of his paintings. I think that I would need a pretty strong kind of collaborator if I were to do something like that, just because I don't know where to begin. I feel like there's probably a lot of homework and research I'd have to do before I could make something that was like really strong, that really uses AR in a way that that isn't just a gimmick, right? Like I think the goal with any of these technologies is you need to understand them well enough so that when you apply them to the artwork, there's a reason for them to be there. You're not just doing it because it's a way to, hype things up. I mean, granted, there's always a little bit of that, right? I mean, use tech in a way that's interesting and it creates hype around your work. But that can't be the only reason why you're doing it. It actually has to make the artwork better by having added that. So that's I don't know enough about AR yet to kind of make that judgment call. But it's certainly exciting, at least based on the other NFT artists that I've seen that are currently using it. It certainly seems like it's a pretty exciting space to get into.
Right. You know what? Spoken like a true artist. Spoken like a true artist with integrity. So for sure we got to get you some great collaborations. I know there's Don Allen. There's Don Allen the third. He's on Instagram and he's one of the creators that Spectacle Snaps version 3 Spectacles they gave him so he can try that out. We also have in the community a virtual effects or visual effects creator named he's at Pages VFX on Twitter, so we should like hook you up. We'll never see, but
Nice.
you're very busy. You're an extremely busy person, so all I know is the future is gonna look bright for you. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Super appreciate that.
Oh, great. Now we're running up to our 3 more minutes to the hour mark. I like to try to keep it on time because you're a busy guy. It's Monday. It's Tuesday morning there, right?
It's Tuesday morning. Yep.
It's a
Yep.
Tuesday. So if anybody has any last questions, put them in the chat and they'll be recorded and then we can always share them with Lewis. Please follow at Lewis at Hello Lewis, HELLOLUIS on Twitter, and then there you can like find out all of his updates and anything that's going on with him. And
Awesome.
yeah, Lewis, do you have any last things you want to say to anybody that's watching?
So what I usually end all of these things with is I show them my cap, which says, hopefully you can read that, it says, don't trust, verify. And this is
Nice.
kind of like a motto for a lot of crypto people in that, kind of the space is very young. There's a lot of stuff that are still being worked out. And one of my first suggestions to anyone who's getting into this stuff, whether it's crypto in general or NFT art specifically, is do your research, do your homework. Don't just trust that that this is the right thing for you just because some guy on the internet said so. Verify it, right? So the reason why I wear this hat all the time is I have to remind people that like I'm super passionate about this stuff. I'm very deeply committed in the crypto space, but it's important that you do your own research and verify everything that I've said because it might not be true for you, right? I've certainly been very fortunate to have witnessed this from 2014 onwards. But everyone's experience is slightly different, and that's why the hat. So.
Oh, I
So
love
that's
it.
it. Yeah.
I love it. But wait a minute. You know what? I'm going to insert an ad lib here. My bad. Let's bring in some pop culture. You have Netflix. Do you have Netflix?
Of course.
Have
Of
you ever
course.
heard? You've seen the season, the show Startup?
I've seen kind of the trailers for it. I have not actually watched it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
we have a question. There's a question about what do you think of. I won't say. I don't want to spoil it, but we'll put it.
Okay.
So we'll bring you back on. You tell me when you finish watching the 3 seasons of Startup, and let me
Wow,
know.
that's a lot of. Okay.
I guarantee you start watching the first one with your girlfriend, and you will not stop. You will be able to finish the first season in 2 days.
Wow. Okay.
Two
All right.
days. 2 days.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
I will take that under advisement. I will see where we can carve out 2 days worth of time, but I will give it a shot. Thank you. Thanks for the recommendation.
okay. And thank you so much for being with us and taking the time out for your busy time. And I'll
Thanks,
catch.
Carmen.
You're welcome, and I'll catch you. I'll catch you online, Lewis.
Okay. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. Hope you found this informative, entertaining, and yeah, do your own research, verify everything I've just said, and keep safe out there.
That's great. Okay, everybody. Ooh, I had to do all these switch transitions. So thank you again for everybody watching on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. And please remember to if you're on YouTube, like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow on Twitch and on Facebook Live. I'm streaming on my personal account, so I don't know. I don't even know if it's working on Facebook, to be honest. But anyway, everybody have a great day wherever you are. Have a great day. Have a great night. And thanks for tuning in. Bye. I have no music like James